Hello, Dark Reader. Welcome to the Dark Side of the Library podcast. I'm your host, Katie. Today we're going to go over the book Nettle and Bone. This is by T. Kingfisher, also known as Ursula Vernon, one of the most amazing authors right now, currently writing amazing things all the time. She is super prolific. This week is a little crazy. We had Prime Days, and we do have an Amazon store, so we do present to you guys more than just books. If you guys want to check that out, we are at amazon.com/live/darkside of the library. You can find us live. You can chat with us there. I do tend to showcase a lot of books we have read there. Anyway, so let's talk about this book. I'm really excited to chat with you because I don't know if you've noticed, but the past couple rounds of books have been a little dull, and I was really happy to find that this book is a delight. So let's talk real quick about Ursula Vernon, or T. Kingfisher, and then I will talk about the summary, and then we will go on to my thoughts about the book, as always. All right, so Ursula Vernon, or T. Kingfisher. The reason why she uses this name is so that she can avoid confusing other adults with her other name. T. Kingfisher is associated with her adult literature, and then Ursula Vernon is more associated with her children's works, so that, people who are like, oh, you know that children's author, Ursula Vernon? The adults don't get confused. So T. Kingfisher is her same writer, but adult time. She also writes comic books. She's won the Hugo, Sequoia, and Ursa Major Awards, as well as a whole bunch of Junior Library Guild selections. She's really amazing. Here's something that she writes about herself. I write and illustrate books, garden, take photos, and blather about myriad things. I have very strong feelings about potatoes. Me too, girl. I love potatoes. She also says when she's not writing, she's probably out in the garden trying to make eye contact with butterflies. Here's some additional things that she has written in case you've never heard of Ursula Vernon before. So The Hollow Places, that's an adult book, so you'll find it under T. Kingfisher. This year, she's also publishing another book this month, I believe, called What Moves the Dead, and I'm really excited to start that one up. That will be a minisode to look forward to. She's also written the webcomic Digger, also the Dragon Breath series. She writes all the time. That's a bit about her. Check out all of her other works if you are interested. Now, let's talk about the summary, what the publisher has to say about Nettle and Bone, which came out, it came out this year. It was pretty recent, like in March. So, here's what it says. This isn't the kind of fairy tale where the princess marries a prince. It's the one where she kills him. Mara never wanted to be a hero. As the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, she escaped the traditional fate of princesses to be married away for the sake of an uncaring throne. But her sister wasn't so fortunate, and after years of silence, Mara is done watching her suffer at the hands of a powerful and an abusive prince. Seeking help for her rescue mission, Mara is offered the tools she needs, but only if she can complete her 3 seemingly impossible tasks. 1. Build a dog of bones. 2. Sew a cloak of needles. And 3. Capture moonlight in a jar. But as is the way in tales of princes and witches, doing the impossible is only the beginning. Hero or not, now joined by a disgraced ex-knight, a reluctant fairy godmother, an enigmatic grave witch, and her foul familiar, Mara might finally have the courage to save her sister and topple a throne. That is the publisher notes. Let me tell you what I think about this book. First of all, a bit of a content warning. This is a dark book. It is, surprisingly, for Ursula Vernon. There is domestic abuse, which is kind of implied in the publisher notes. There's child death, miscarriages, curses, regular people death. murder. It's also relatable to issues currently, such as explaining how pregnancy is very dangerous, super dangerous, and incredibly difficult, more so than people actually realize. And also, the book starts with cannibalism. So those are kind of the themes through the book. There's no cannibalism throughout the book, by the way, if that's something that grosses you out. Just to begin, I give this book it's a full 5 stars for me. I really enjoyed this book. And I'm noticing a theme for myself that dark fantasy tends to, I think it might be my genre. I'm really digging it. And I do like dark sci-fi as well. But this is more like high dark fairy tale fantasy-esque book. T. Kingfisher, or Ursula Vernon, does this fantastic job of bringing very familiar elements and a storyline that probably has been told millions and millions of times. It's very recognizable. People going on a quest to kill the king or kill an evil prince or something like that. But the thing that makes it so good are the characters. It's like you can have 2 different kinds of people talking about their journey to the grocery store, the same grocery store, the same aisle, and each person is going to have a different interpretation, and each person just might bring something different to the table. So it doesn't matter if the story is familiar. What matters is the characters, in my humble opinion. This story has a lot of very cool, important themes. It does end on a high note, so if you're somebody that isn't into dreary, grim ends, this is actually for you. It actually ends pretty well. Some of the themes also in this book, aside from the darker ones, we have things like found family, especially people that might not ordinarily get along and they're bound together and they make it work, and they still treat each other with respect, even though there's seemingly huge differences with each other. The lengths that you will actually go for your actual family, your blood relatives, and making sure you take care of people that really do, care about you, and understanding some sacrifices that do have to be made. And also, one lesson I think was really important, and it was pretty profound in the book, I felt like it was highlighted quite a bit, is that you can't really save somebody who doesn't want to be saved. That was a really good lesson, and that's, I think, honestly a reminder that I need often. I like to get into people's stuff, and then I need to recognize that maybe some people just like where they're at, and I can't do anything about it. Another thing that they talk about is like making the impossible possible, and working as a team, and actually relying on each other and leaning on each other when you do need support systems. It's actually a very good, wholesome story, even though there's a lot of dark elements. There's a lot of witty characters, sarcasm. I mean, it is dripping with sarcasm, this book. Let me just talk about that a bit. So leaning in on each other, we have our weird team that has somehow managed to make it work together, our ragtag journeyers. We have Mara, who is basically a almost not quite a princess and almost a nun character. She is, I thought she was somewhat relatable. In some ways, I could see her being a little bit of a generic character, but honestly, every time she would say, Our Lady of Graggles, I would crack up. So she joined she joined this convent, and that is their person, Lady of Graggles. Why she decided that Graggles was a good holy name to use and wouldn't make people crack up, I don't know. Why'd you do that, Ursula Vernon? But anyway, it cracked me up. Because every time Mara is stressed out, she's like, oh, Lady of Graggles. And it was just funny. Anyway, so Mara's really sweet. And she is trying to protect her older sister, Kanya, who was unfortunately forced to marry the prince of the Northern Kingdom to protect the entire family, like to protect their realm. So it's like this treaty that they've made with each other. Mara discovers that the prince has been abusing Kanya physically, and Kanya tries to reduce that abuse by being pregnant all the time, and she hasn't yet bore a son. So Mara is obviously incredibly upset with the sight that she's seen with her sister, but also another thing to keep in mind is that Mara, if Kanya ends up passing away or dying, and this includes dying of childbirth, because she keeps getting pregnant weeks or months right after each pregnancy. So the possibility of her dying from pregnancy is super high. So Mara knows that she would be the next in line as well. So it's kind of selfish, but she's trying to save herself and her sister from this really horrible situation. So she's like, I need to kill the king/prince at the time. So she goes on this quest and finds the next character. The next character is the Dust Wife. And I think the Dust Wife is my favorite character in the entire book. So Mara recognizes how ridiculous this whole thing is, because the Dust Wife is really powerful. She can speak to the dead and kind of interact with the dead. She's got very powerful magic, but Mara realizes how silly this whole, just Mara and the Dust Mother are together. I keep saying Dust Mother. I mean to say Dust Wife. I don't know why I want to say Dust Mother. It just sounds better. I don't know. Anyway, so the Dust Wife. And the Dust Wife has this demon chicken with her, and it sits on the top of her staff. Just the whole thing is hilarious in general. Like if you envision, these two ladies walking anywhere. And the Dust Wife is this old, witty, sarcastic, snide little woman, and I just absolutely love her. Okay, the Dust Wife was finally convinced by Mara to come with her on this quest. The Dust Wife is incredibly reluctant. But Mara completes these particular tasks, finally convinced the Dust Wife that, yeah, let's go. So then they're on their way to this thing, and it becomes this journey back to the kingdom. They run into this ex-knight in a place called the Goblin Market. So the world building in this entire book is really cool. Even though it's very short, it's only 250 pages long-ish. Still, T. Kingfisher has done a great job illustrating this vast world in such a small space, and I really appreciated that. The Goblin Market itself is super cool, and I wish there was an entire book that was like about somebody who was living or trading in the Goblin Market. There's a lot of cool stuff there. So they meet this ex-knight who ended up in the Goblin Market because he happened to fall into a fairy circle. It's all very hilarious. Fenris is our ex-knight. He is a bit of a do-gooder. He's a great knight, and he did one terrible thing in his life, and he feels utter shame and is borderline trigger warning. He's borderline, he's not suicidal, but, he doesn't mind sacrificing himself because honor and duty, and he needs to make up for this one mistake he ever did. Anyway, so then we veer off and we find the godmother. It's actually a fairy godmother of Mara. And originally she seems to be a little useless and hilarious. The Dust Wife and the fairy godmother together. The fairy godmother's name is Agnes. They're hilarious together. There's two little old ladies and they kind of bicker. Agnes is kind of like the happier one and the naive and things are good, right? And then the Dust Wife is like, no, things are crap. And it's a hilarious dynamic. I would love to see just an entire book of those two, especially like maybe a sequel to the story that's literally just those two and kind of how they live the rest of their days. That's super fun. And we also have other characters, even the animals. So I talked about the demon hen, and we also have a bone dog. All of the characters, even the little animals, they all have kind of their own fun, quirky little characteristics that make them really memorable. And all of them put together are just this really endearing and wholesome group that are just trying to kill evil, honestly. That's really the essence of this entire story. And I really enjoy just the simplicity of it. It was a short, really fun read. It was hilarious in a lot of times. It was personal, but it didn't have to be over the top. And we did have those dark themes were there. They were in the background always kind of looming over, and a lot of these themes are very serious and they're relatable to today. If you enjoy dark fairy tales, especially Ursula Vernon and her writing style, high fantasy with some really fun and quirky characters, talking to the dead, and fun lessons to be learned in the middle of a sinister setting, I totally recommend Nettle and Bone. It's a really good novel. It's short and sweet, to the point, potential to add on to it, potential to even create other characters in the same kind of world. It's fun. I do recommend it. So check it out and let us know what you think of it on our Instagram or Facebook, YouTube, and our Amazon Live channel. We'd love to see you in all of those platforms. And you can find us at Dark Side of the Library or amazon.com/live/Dark Side of the Library. Stay tuned every Wednesday for Dark Creepy Reads we curate for every single month, spanning from nonfiction, comic books, children's books, adult fiction, etc. Fridays, I like to do minisodes and break down different books that I've been reading each week. And because there's so many books coming out, there are also probably going to be Monday episodes that talk about different books that are coming out also per month. So make sure to stay tuned for all 3 days. Spread the word about Dark Side of the Library. It really helps us out, and we'd love to unite all of the dark readers out there. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a creep-tastic week.